I don't remember the exact year that I read it. I knew about Google. I knew about data. I knew about crowdsourced data. I knew about collective intelligence. And I'd studied Carl Jung years ago, and I'd read a lot about physics and Eastern thinking. But when I left the insurance industry and I was trying to figure out how not to be in insurance anymore and go into the next thing, and I was going to networking events pretty much every day. And that was back before when you could actually talk to people at a networking event. They were there to talk to each other, not to be distracted by their emails and phones and texts. And the chaos years began. And the book Wisdom of Crowds, I just looked it up. It came out 2004. Why the Many Are Smarter Than the Few and How Collective Wisdom Shapes Business, Economies, Societies, and Nations by James Surowiecki, I guess. And to say that book changed my thinking in my life is an understatement. And I went into the chaos of the software industry, leaped off the cliff into chaos. And what I saw was the people selling that future didn't believe it themselves. They did not believe what they were seeing. They did not understand what wisdom of crowds is. And that is true for Google as well back then. That is true for Google. From my experience, despite that being a big opinion statement, what I know now looking back is that my relationship to crowd wisdom is what matters, not figuring out how to profit from, manipulate data to get to wisdom. When Google started, it was not doing that. What Google was doing is it was finding wisdom in data and using that wisdom to surface the best possible content to the person who was looking for it based on their intent of what they wanted. And that led to the ad network business model. And in the early days, it worked. And then they gave up their dream in my noticing. I call it opinion, but it's also just what I noticed. Now, looking back, I didn't see it at the time because they didn't believe in the future. Now, many of us do believe in this future, and this future is wisdom of crowds is about people coming together around a shared desire. It's not about data. The data is just part of it. What is the data? What is the wisdom coming from the data? In AI, this is just AI. This isn't new. And when I got into the marketing, data-driven marketing industry, and I'd seen this back in the 90s, but really when I got it, worked for Marketing IQ for 6 months. That was my second company in the chaos years. Startup sabotage and seeing through the pitch. I learned about Forrester. I learned about Gartner. I learned about the consulting industry packages of this emerging innovation package to sell and make money, shortcutting what it really is and the wisdom coming into the world from this new way of understanding something very old. We're at a moment now, I feel, where we're going back to what's very old, but in a new form because of all those years of experimentation with data. What is the data? It's a representation of what humanity is thinking, feeling, and doing online. What is the purpose of that data? That's your question and my question. What is my relationship to that environment? In other words, do I believe in the future or not? Because what is coming into the future is two things, from what I can tell. One is more extraction of wealth from the data. That's old thinking because it's always old thinking. What is also coming in is connection between the people that are represented by the data in the real world together. Where? Offline, not on social media. Social media is the place to meet each other. So let's talk about AI before it was cool. What was AI? I'm not an expert in the AI history. I'm an expert in my relationship to it through my own business development experience, riding the waves of what's next, not understanding necessarily what they're doing in Silicon Valley because I never understood what they were talking about. But I also knew I didn't need to know. I needed to understand what was happening. And I did. And I succeeded. This is corporate innovation before the buzzwords. These are people who are scientific explorers on the frontier of human intelligence, looking at what does this say to us? Now, closing multi-million-dollar deals, working on closing multi-million-dollar deals, while my bosses were pitching vaporware and then getting fired for doing what actually worked and succeeding is a perfect analogy for what's happening right now because I saw it. And so did other people in some of these corporations, and those became my allies. And so did people I met at many of these networking groups, and they became my allies. And so did some of these companies that hired me, and they were not my allies because they didn't see what I saw. What they saw was a business opportunity for them. When big movements of change come into the society throughout human history, those of us who want to ride the wave of the big movement of change without interfering with it win long term. We're in long term now. It's been a while. Those who want to profit from the control over that wave of trying to stop that wave or adjust that wave or manipulate that wave or impact that wave, that's a little different. But that are trying to harness it as opposed to directing it, always lose. If I'm on the beach and I see waves coming in and I don't know what's going on, I'm going to drown in them or at least just be super confused. So we're talking here about prosperity, big money. We're not talking about extracting more wealth from a limited way of thinking, looking at a market as a closed loop system. That is old thinking. And getting fired for doing what actually worked for me came from closed loop thinking in environments that believed in something that wasn't true, which is that the technology experts and the analytical thinkers should be driving the bus, and everybody else struggles to get a seat at the front of the bus. I'm in the back of the bus. Who's in the back of the bus? Business developers, operations people, people who care about people, and people trying to figure out not analytically, how can we make this thing work for us so we get a faster exit or a business model that makes no sense whatsoever, which is what's happened, still going on. But those who are saying, how do we ride this wave? We direct the wave. Human beings direct the wave, not the AI or not the technology. We direct it. It's about a relationship. I have a relationship with nature. It's part of nature. The AI is us. It's part of us. It's part of human intelligence because it was created through creative intelligence that flows through what? Human beings. Who made the computers? Not the people who made them. The creative intelligence that came into the world, 40s, 50s, 60s, and that whole era of this human intelligence shifting into devices that anybody can walk around with matters. Whenever anybody tries to interfere with that process, they're creating a relationship with what's next that is distorted. I don't want to do that. I think it's limited. So I'm talking about more than office politics and how do you succeed as a business development person, an entrepreneur, an office person, or whatever in one of these companies where the leadership in the company has no idea what's really going on because they're so short-sighted. It's a lesson what happens when your gift is real, but you're trapped inside someone else's dysfunctional story. We got to get it ready for Forrester. We got to show Forrester. We got to show Gartner. We got to figure out how to, that stuff. You're not burned out and you're not too intense. You're not failing. I was not failing. I was stuck in a system that was never designed for somebody like me to succeed because I'm trying to figure out what's happening. They didn't care. What they cared about was what will get your pipeline solid enough so you can prove to us that these deals will close. And the answer was, that's the wrong way to think about it. And then I did close deals. And then I realized through this long period, I'm working for the wrong people. I got to get out. And I started my own company and it worked. The chaos years, startup sabotage and seeing through the pitch. Here's 5 takeaways for you if you're in this mess and feel like, oh my God, these people don't really know what they're doing, but they're considered the smartest people in the world and they have all the money. And you're just this, David with your slingshot in the desert, kind of looking at him and saying, you guys don't know what you're doing. You don't understand where things are going because you are getting so much benefit out of it for yourself because you're riding on top of and trying to control what can't be controlled, which is AI and this technology. We don't have to control it. It's not necessary. It's about what's your relationship to it. How are you using it? So first, why traction doesn't guarantee alignment? In other words, how do I define business traction? Is business traction when other people say, wow, here's more money because I'm good at pitching investors, or I'm in the private secret communities of other so-called smartest people in the world. They're not so smart. I listen to them and I'm like, you're missing it completely because not all of them, some of them are there, but alignment is what matters. What are you aligning with? Creative intelligence. Where does the creative intelligence come from? Everywhere. It is everything. It is in everything. And that creative intelligence is informing all of my ideas and actions. You must take action in the marketplace through connection to creative intelligence. And what I saw back then was not my own awareness of this. I just did it. I didn't know what was happening. I just leaped in. And all of a sudden, I'm meeting with CTOs, I'm meeting with CEOs, I'm meeting with presidents of media companies. I'm speaking in front of corporate audiences and networking like a maniac. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but it didn't matter because I understood it mattered. And all I was trying to do was get people engaged. How does that happen? Synchronicity. And what blocked it were the people I worked for because they weren't in that frequency of thinking. And they saw me as a cog in their machine. Get out. Or stay and use it like I did to your advantage. I couldn't have done my business later and I couldn't do what I'm doing now without that 5 or 6 years of working for these kinds of people and just knowing, like, why don't they understand how to navigate corporate dysfunction without losing your edge is the work. And I did. I did. And to know that you're viewed as someone who doesn't get it, but keep going anyways, wasn't even the issue for me because I thought they got it. And then when I got fired, I was surprised. And that's my lack of of astuteness around corporate politics because I didn't realize these startups were corporate. They were because they took money and they needed money then. It's expensive to make a business product like marketing technology product. It's a whole, you need a chief technology officer. Back then, you needed a chief technology officer, you needed a chief operating officer, you needed chief financial officer, you needed all these people paid. They wanted a lot of money, even though they weren't willing to take risks like us, entrepreneurs. They didn't want to take a risk. They wanted money. And that's millions of dollars in payroll. We don't have to do that anymore. We're in a new world. Third, what to do when you're more credible than the founders. I sat in meetings watching people looking at me and saying, we don't want to do media optimization. We don't believe what you're saying is true. When what they really meant was, we don't like what you're saying because it's what we do and it's going to hurt us. And I saw it. I met with some of the top media companies in the world, as well as consumer insights companies when I was selling social data insights. And I didn't know why they wouldn't buy it. But I realized pretty quickly, they're not the buyer for innovation of anything new because they see it as a threat. I heard that. I met with the president of I don't know if it was Resolution Media or Omnicom, or it was they're managing a big digital media budget. And I showed him this bid management solution that actually worked, hurt Google, could cut Google's revenue by 40%. Whose revenue did it cut? It would cut their revenue. So the president of this division, he's meeting with me and he's like, why would you want to sell this to me? And I'm like, because it's going to work. Not on every client, but we can partner and figure out. He's like, you just cut my income by 40%. I'm like, oh, you don't care. You don't understand. You just turned down a multi-million-dollar opportunity because you're trying to control how these technologies are worked instead of partnering with them. That's what he was doing. And short-sighted. Why is it short-sighted? It's a public corporation. It's not he's nothing he can do about it except quit. He's not an entrepreneur. He wants a stable paycheck every quarter or every month and big bonuses, keep his house and his lifestyle. So he doesn't want to jump off the cliff with me and other people like me into the future. He didn't care. There's nothing wrong with it. I just didn't understand it. I don't understand how anyone can think like that. But I look back and I'm like, it makes sense. We're not all like this, wanting to be in the future as opposed to what is, and in the future seeing hundreds of millions as opposed to millions and freedom from these corporate structures. He didn't want that. He wanted to be in the corporate structure and not get fired by all his clients. No, his clients would have loved him. He would have got fired by the company he worked for, the ad agency. Why being the best performer won't save you in a rigged culture. Marketing IQ fired me after closing a deal with a college on the West Coast. And my effort for them was off the charts solid. And these people didn't understand it. They were doing pipeline management and lead and opportunity scoring. And I'm like, I'm not a damn salesperson. You don't understand. They didn't understand. And I was the best performer in that company at understanding how to build up that company, but I didn't own it. I worked for them. And they opened an HR file on me in month 3. Think about how stupid that is. You got somebody who's willing to jump off a cliff for you. I jumped off the cliff for me, not them. They got to come along for the ride, and I learned from it, and I got a deal for them. And, the bureaucratic processes that they'd instituted led to me getting fired because I lied to them about an NDA without even realizing that, I was even lying. I forgot. I forgot to send it to this guy because it doesn't matter to them more than getting a deal closed. Um, it took a lot to make that happen. So I'm the best performer in the company, not them. But when you're the business developer or the hired gun, you're not treated that way. That's the problem. These companies are stupid at that. They don't understand because they don't care. They're trying to manipulate the environment as opposed to ride the wave of change into potentially multi-million-dollar future quicker than anybody else because they're doing it in flow. The difference between using your gift and selling it off. So that's a decision. Are you going to sell your talent to the highest bidder? Sure, why not? And then use that environment, ex Google, become an ex Amazon, become an ex Facebook. I see the future of e-commerce on LinkedIn, ex Amazon, Thrive, Grove. There's a lot of them. I'm seeing them every day. And I look and I'm like, this is better than Amazon. Does that mean it's going to work? Of course. Of course it'll work. How'd they learn it? At Amazon. Why'd they leave? Think about it. If you've ever felt like you're the only sane person in the room, it's possible you are. There's a group think that takes over. What happens with group think? You're told you're the problem because they believe it, that you're the problem. And they won't tell you. And I used to get called into my boss's office. This is multiple times. My boss's office, and the conversation was, they're saying things about you. Who's they? Well, that's not your business. Oh, somebody's trying to get me fired. Why? They're jealous or they're threatened. I think it was threatened. Nobody was jealous of me. They're like, wow, this guy is sabotaging himself. He's going to get fired because he doesn't know how to play the politics. I'm not playing the politics. I'm riding the wave of change. I didn't read that book by accident. And I'm not here to make you like me, get you to like me, or follow your rules. I'm here to make something happen. And if you won't let me do that, why am I even there? Stable paycheck's nice, but it's not stable because you got to sell something. And I knew that. So I'm going to do it my way. And it was the right way. My way is the right way. Your way is the right way if you're connected to creative intelligence, because you know I'm on the way of a change and I'm going to do it. The top salesperson at Networked Insights had never sold anything. And he kept doing sales training with me. And I'm like, you never sold anything. And I told him that. And he said, well, it's too early. I'm like, it's not too early. Allstate just hired a bunch of social data people from Dell. It's not too early. It's perfect timing. He was afraid. And I think I threatened him because I actually did the work. I didn't wait for somebody to give me a lead. I got the leads myself. I made it happen. People who don't make it happen are threatened by people who make it happen. He was better at politics than me, a lot better. He got nowhere. I got somewhere. So this is the hidden cost of staying quiet, staying loyal, and staying in the wrong rooms. You may feel this way. You may be sitting in meetings and feel like none of these people know what they're talking about. It's because of the politics and the funding system, or they just don't. But it's usually that they've made a deal with themselves, which is they've preferred to stay safe, to stay quiet, and not rock the boat because they don't want to give up stability, security, and their misperception of what smart is. Smart is going your own way into creative intelligence, making decisions about what you care about, what I care about in the world, and leaping off the cliff. That's the smart move. The wrong room is the wrong room, and I'm gonna get pushed out or I'm gonna I've done both. I got pushed out and I've quit. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. It's nice when you get pushed out, you can get unemployment for a few months, but it doesn't matter. What matters is getting out when you're done. I was done with all those companies and I left to go to the next one. And then the next one came, tag management company in the Bay Area I networked into through connections in Chicago. They hired me and I'm like, I'm done. I'm not working for one. And I haven't worked for a software company since. Now I've had clients, a lot of clients, hundreds of clients or software companies when I still have a lead generation sales outsourcing company. It's just, I've been out of it since 2020, even though I still own it. I gave up a lot of equity to get out of it because I don't want to work with people like this. I don't want to work with people who are focused on just the result. I want to work with people or be around people who are riding the wave or want to be. That's what the entrepreneur experience is all about. Whether you have the ability to jump off the cliff like me into the deep end of the pool is not relevant. It's you have an ability, you have gifts. Don't compromise on them and don't give them away to people who will exploit you because they can't do it themselves. That's why they do it. Investors cannot do what I've done. We don't need investors anymore. Only big money people need investors. OpenAI needed SoftBank. I don't know why they picked SoftBank, but they needed him because of the money. Come on. Hopefully they don't ruin it. Hopefully, because it's an awesome product. We use it every day. We're figuring out how to use ChatGPT in a very advanced way. We've already gotten there. It's incredible. Hopefully they don't ruin it. But it doesn't matter because there'll be something else and it's cheap. And they can do that at scale. You can't. That's an inner circle game. That's a big money game. The big money people are not going to throw big money at me. And if they did, I'd say no anyways, because then they own me and ruin my life. So how do you, when you get out of the room, reclaim your voice, your value, and your vision without burning everything down? Frequency. I've opposed society for years. I look at the society and I'm like, this is wrong. It's crazy. This social media popularity thing now. And I felt it was crazy back when cable television started too. And I felt it was crazy back in lifestyles of the rich and famous days. Not that I'm against it. I just think it's wrong. It's insane. But being against it is perceived as attack on society. I had to get through that. Last few years, if you read my content the last few years, it feels like an attack to people, like I'm trying to burn everything down. I'm not. I'm trying to ride the wave of change into a multi-million-dollar opportunity for us. It's not even me anymore. It's the whole group. An opportunity for us and anybody who joins us. I'm seeing it in the billions now, which surprised me because it's not what I wanted. It felt too hard. It doesn't feel hard anymore. Anyone would look at this from these industries and say, this guy is nuts. I'm not. And I know from history and biographies and autobiographies and my own inner knowing of what's real and what's not real, that I'm not crazy and it's right. And I've known that since really 2000, but for sure 2013. And when you know, you know. And then the question is, how do you deal with the people who are playing the game you're not playing, which is not an inner-directed game? It's a measurement and comparison game about KPIs, key performance indicators. And when somebody's made 100 million or 2 billion and they're talking and pontificating on social media and they're saying things that aren't true, even for them, they're not connected to themselves and everyone can see through it, everyone immediately. But we talk ourselves out of it and we think, oh, they must know because they have what I don't have. They don't have what you don't have. You already have what you have. It's a misperception. They're confused. They're disconnected from themselves. If you're disconnected from yourself, you're going to go the wrong direction and you're not going to get $1 billion anyways, or you'll get it like they did. And that's because of being connected to a vision, or they figured out how to get financial backing to manipulate the market to get what they wanted out of it. It can happen either way. The question is, what do you want for yourself? And that's what really matters. So the idea of the chaos years, startup sabotage and seeing through the pitch is what got me the lessons